Stormy shores. In the quaint fishing village of Serene Cove, nestled along the rugged coastline of Oregon, Elena Parker has chosen to reinvent herself after a tumultuous breakup. Embracing a new chapter, she manages a stunning art gallery, aptly named the Driftwood Gallery, famous for showcasing local talent and seaside-inspired crafts. With her eccentric troupe of friends, her cherished cat, Mr. Whiskers, and a passion for watercolor painting, Elena feels she's finally found her groove. Meanwhile, Nadine Hall, the curatorial force behind the Serene Cove Maritime Heritage Museum, is known for her no-nonsense approach and the stern control she exerts on her team. With a passion for antiquities and a tendency for historical accuracy, she has little patience for whimsical galleries like Elena's, often viewing them as an affront to the true artistry of the past. Their worlds collide when Elena approaches Nadine for permission to showcase a rare ship's artifact, an intricately carved, antique figurehead that Nadine has kept hidden away. A misunderstanding sparked by a snarky comment about a baffling display of nautical-themed bondage gear quickly escalates, solidifying their mutual disdain for one another. However, when the coastal community is shaken by the perplexing disappearance of a beloved local fisherman, both women find themselves thrust together as unlikely allies. Each holding a piece of the puzzle, they must navigate their contrasting viewpoints to unravel a mystery that could endanger them both. As Elena enters the museum, she's immediately struck by the chilling sounds of the wind howling outside, making the old building creak and groan. The scent of salt water and history hangs thick in the air as she approaches the front desk, where an anxious intern named Liam fidgets nervously. "Hi, I'm looking for Ms. Hall," Elena announces brightly, despite the ominous atmosphere. Liam shifts on his feet. Do you have an appointment?" "Not exactly, but I assure you it's important," Elena replies, determination in her eyes. With a reluctant nod, Liam gestures toward the door leading to Nadine's office. "Just be careful. She doesn't like surprises." Elena can almost hear Liam's internal monologue. "Yeah, you're telling me." Stepping into the office, Elena finds Nadine sitting behind a desk littered with maps and artifacts. The imposing woman, with her sharp features and a cascade of auburn hair, scans her with cool, assessing eyes. "What do you want?" Nadine's voice is rich and authoritative, leaving no room for casual conversation. "I'd like to discuss the figurehead you have." "No." Nadine cuts her off, the one-word dismissal hitting Elena like a splash of icy water. "Please, I think it'd be a great addition to my exhibit. And seriously, have you seen my paintings? They're vibrant and full of life. Have you ever thought about adding some color to your museum?" "I keep history, not decor," Nadine snaps back, crossing her arms defiantly. But before anything else can be said, they both hear a loud commotion echoing through the museum followed by a shriek. Instinctively, they rush outside, hearts racing, to find several patrons gathered around a scene near the coastal walkway. What they discover is the lifeless body of the fisherman, only steps away from the shoreline. As they work together, piecing together clues and their own contrasting styles of investigation, they begin to see each other in a new light. Despite their disagreements, a bond forms in the midst of the chaos, a growing understanding and undeniable attraction. Every close encounter is charged with tension, whether it's a brush of hands over artifacts or shared glances, as they chase down leads about the town's secrets. One night, while poring over maps and coffee in Elena's gallery, Nadine accidentally brushes against Elena's hand. The moment takes them both by surprise, and as Nadine looks up, vulnerability flickers in her sharp gaze. "Maybe you're not what I expected," Nadine admits softly, a hint of warmth seeping into her usually frosty demeanor. "Guess I'm not just a pretty face in paint," Elena teases, her heart fluttering at the shift in their energy. Together, as they dive deeper into the mystery, the women must confront the challenges of trust, vulnerability, and the evolving feelings that spark between them. Can they unravel the truth behind the fisherman's disappearance before it's too late? Or will the shadows of the past threaten to drown them both? Serene Cove is about to reveal that sometimes the fiercest storms lead to the most beautiful transformations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting Serene Cove into golden twilight, Elena and Nadine found themselves hunched over a sprawling map inside the driftwood gallery. Notes and coffee cups scattered around them. The air was thick with the scent of roasted beans, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore outside. What if the fisherman's death wasn't an accident? Nadine mused, tracing a finger along the coastline. There were whispers about counterfeit fishing permits. He could have stumbled upon something bigger than we realized. Elena leaned closer, her heart racing as their shoulders brushed against each other. And if he was mixed up in that, it could explain why no one from the fishing community is talking. They're scared. Nadine looked up, her dark eyes holding a glimmer of something Elena hoped was more than just determination. You're not as naive as I thought. We'll need to talk to some of his friends, get them to open up. Great idea, Elena said, her voice light with excitement. Let's start with that bar down by the pier. They're friendlier when they've had a few drinks. Nadine smiled. It was a small cracking of her usually stoic facade. The transformation sent warmth blooming through Elena's chest. I wouldn't mind seeing you in a more casual setting anyway. A rush of warmth suffused Elena's cheeks as she dug through her bag, extracting a small notebook. Right. I'll make a list of questions, and we can formulate a strategy. As she scribbled, Nadine stood up, stretching. I'm going to grab us some snacks. We'll need our energy. Elena watched Nadine walk to the small kitchen nook, taking in the graceful line of her neck and the strength in her posture. Nadine seemed to tower over the room, commanding and confident. I could help in the kitchen, Elena offered with a playful lilt in her voice. She was teasing, but the double meaning of her intimacy, their growing connection, hung heavy in the air. Nadine turned with a raised eyebrow. And how would that look? You bringing my snacks while I solve a murder? Elena chuckled. Why not? The sheriff already thinks we're up to no good. At that moment, the door swung open, and in walked a familiar face, Hannah, a local artist and good friend of Elena's. Hello, ladies. I thought I'd drop by and see what you're working on. Nadine rolled her eyes playfully. You mean, what I'm working on while Elena charms me with snacks? Elena couldn't help but laugh, grateful for the camaraderie Hannah brought. That's not entirely accurate. We're trying to solve a murder mystery. You just caught me slacking off being charming. As they filled Hannah in, Elena couldn't shake the moment before, the chemistry buzzing between herself and Nadine. But as they delved deeper, the feeling mingled with the urgency of the case. Hours later, with a few chips and several empty coffee cups behind them, they decided it was time to head to the bar. The tide was low, the setting sun casting a reflection across the water, giving the scene a romantic, if fleeting quality. The Blue Waves Tavern was a familiar local haunt, marked by its bright ochre paint and seaside decor. A small crowd gathered at the bar, laughter mingling with the sounds of clinking glasses, and the air felt lively, just the kind of atmosphere they needed to coax information out of the townsfolk. As they entered, Elena spotted a few faces she recognized, including Tom, the fisherman's closest friend. He looked up from his drink, his eyes revealing a mix of sorrow and suspicion. What do you want? He demanded, his voice thick with resentment. Nadine stepped forward, confidence radiating from her. We're here to talk about Derek. We know something's not right, and we need your help to understand it better. Elena stayed slightly back, watching as Nadine's authoritative tone worked its magic on the group. Tom's glare softened just a fraction, but he crossed his arms. Derek was a good man, but you don't know anything about him. Why should I trust you too? Elena hesitated before taking a step closer. Because if we don't get to the truth, his death won't be the last. There are shadows in this town that we all need to face. The bar fell silent, the tension winding tighter. Nadine nodded in agreement, encouraging Elena to keep speaking. We're not here to cause trouble. We want justice for Derek, and that benefits everyone. After a long moment, Tom and a few others exchanged glances. Fine, but you better be careful. Not everyone in this town wants the truth to come out. They agreed to meet later in the week for a more private conversation. But just as Nadine and Elena began to relax, a loud crash sounded from behind them. They turned just in time to see a figure stumble into the bar, gasping for breath. A man with wild eyes and a bloodied shirt stepped into view, shouting for help. Someone's coming for me. They're after me. Elena's heart pounded as the atmosphere shifted from lively to alarmed, the tavern suddenly alive with chaos. Nadine sprang into action, her instincts leading her forward. "Get back! What happened?" she demanded. The man clutched the counter, desperation etched into his features. "I know what happened to Derek, I know." "Shut it! You don't want to get us all killed," shouted one of the fishermen. Before anyone could react, the doors burst open again, revealing a group of men, their intentions clearly hostile. "Who are you and why are you spreading lies?" one growled, stepping forward. Elena tightened her grip on her keys, adrenaline surging through her. Nadine's eyes met hers, a shared understanding of urgency and fear. Together, they needed to protect the man and possibly uncover more about Derek's fate. "Run!" Nadine shouted. "Elena, get that man out of here." Elena moved swiftly, grabbing the distressed man's arm as they navigated the terrified crowd. The tension hummed as they dashed out the side door, adrenaline propelling them toward safety. As they panted in the alley behind the bar, the sounds of chaos faded, but the weight of the night pressed down on them. Elena could feel Nadine close by, their breaths mingling in the dim light. "What just happened?" Nadine asked, her tone a mix of authority and awe. "I think we just uncovered something bigger than we intended," Elena replied, her pulse racing, both from fear and the closeness of Nadine. "Are you okay?" Nadine asked, leaning in slightly, concern written across her features. Elena nodded. "I think so. Just caught off guard. But we can't let this stop us. If we can learn what Derek knew, we could expose whoever is responsible." Nadine's gaze softened, and for a moment, all the chaos faded away, leaving just the two of them, determined, fierce. "Together then?" "Together," Elena affirmed, her heart pounding not only with adrenaline, but with something deeper. Tonight had set the stage. They might have narrowly escaped danger, but they were in this together now. A bond forged in fire, facing down the dark secrets of Serene Cove. As the adrenaline subsided, Elena and Nadine leaned back against the cool bricks of the alley wall, catching their breath. The sounds of the Blue Waves Tavern faded into the distance, but the weight of their discovery and the threat still lingered in the air. "What do we do next?" Nadine asked, her brows furrowing in thought. "We need to find a safe place to regroup and figure out what that man knows before anyone else gets hurt." "Elena, honey." "Nadine." Hannah's voice echoed from the alley entrance, her figure emerging from the shadows. "I saw what happened. Are you both okay?" "More or less," Nadine replied, straightening up. "But there's no time to lose. We need to find that man and talk to him before the others do." "Let's head to my place," Hannah suggested, her face a mask of concern but her tone resolute. "I have some space we can use. It'll be safer than staying out here." The three of them hurried through the back streets, each step laden with urgency. As they arrived at Hannah's home, a cozy cottage filled with eclectic art and mismatched furniture, Elena felt the warmth of familiarity wash over her. Once inside, they locked the doors and settled around a small table strewn with art supplies and coffee mugs. The atmosphere shifted from frantic energy to a more intimate gathering. "Hannah, you know the locals better than we do," Nadine began, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "Do you have any contacts that might help us track down that man?" "Yeah," Hannah replied, nodding. "I might know a few people who were close to Derek. They could help us find him, if he's still in town." Elena felt a rush of gratitude towards Hannah. "Thank you. We need to keep this under wraps for now. If word gets out that we're investigating, it could make things worse." After brainstorming, they quickly shared stories about Derek and the fishing community, trying to piece together the puzzle with every detail they recalled. Shadows of worry formed in the corners of the cozy room, as they discussed who might have had a motive to harm him. Eventually, as exhaustion began to seep in, they agreed on a plan. Hannah would make some discreet inquiries to gather more information, and Nadine and Elena would work on following up with leads they had brainstormed together. "We should split up for now," Nadine said decisively, her fierce determination igniting a sense of purpose within them all. "We'll cover more ground that way." Hannah nodded, her excitement palpable. "I can visit the docks tomorrow morning. Derek's friends tend to gather there for coffee early. I'll chat with them and see if anyone can lead us to that man." Elena felt a thrill run through her. And Nadine and I will head to the town archives. There might be something in the records about any trouble Derek was in, or if he made a report about threats. As they finalized their plans, Elena caught Nadine's gaze. We're doing this together, right? Absolutely. There was a spark in Nadine's voice, a promise woven between them. With a mutual understanding forged between the trio, they said their goodbyes. A flurry of encouragement exchanged within the comforting walls of Hannah's space. The next day, after a restless night filled with dreams of danger and possibility, Elena and Nadine set out early. The fog clung to the ground like a thick blanket as they walked to the archives. Elena felt the anticipation bubbling within her. It was strange to mix the thrill of the investigation with the weight of her feelings for Nadine. Once inside the archives, the air was musty, filled with the scent of aged paper and history. Nadine dove straight into the records, while Elena rummaged through boxes of photographs and old newspaper clippings. After hours of searching through dusty files and whispering to each other in hushed tones, a clipping caught Elena's eye. A local article about a series of altercations involving fishermen, one of whom had mysteriously disappeared. A chill ran down her spine as she found Derek's name mentioned alongside rumors of gambling debts and shady dealings. This looks promising, Elena called to Nadine, who approached with a stack of yellowed papers in her arms. What did you find? Nadine asked, leaning over the table, the closeness stirring the butterflies in Elena's stomach. Elena handed her the article. Derek's name keeps coming up in connection with a group that was involved in illegal fishing practices. This could explain why someone would want to scare him, or worse. Nadine's brow furrowed as she read. This was months ago. He must have been worried. Maybe he found something he shouldn't have. Suddenly, a shadow fell over their workspace. A tall figure stood in the doorway. Tom. What are you two doing here? He demanded, his voice low and wary. We're investigating Derek's death, Nadine replied, her tone steady. We think he may have been involved in something dangerous. I didn't know he was in trouble, Tom admitted, his tension easing just slightly. But he did mention something about a big score before But he wouldn't tell me anything more. Can you help us? We need to find out what was going on, Elena urged. I can take you to see his boat, Tom hesitated. But you have to promise to stay out of trouble. There are people who don't want this found. Nadine exchanged a glance with Elena, both of them silently agreeing. We'll do whatever we have to, she promised. In the coming hours, they followed Tom to the docks, uncertainty mingling with hope. As they approached the old fishing boat, a sense of foreboding settled over them. Here we are, Tom said quietly, glancing around nervously. Elena felt a rush of determination as she stepped aboard, scanning for clues. The interior was a mess of old nets and tackle, but a metal trunk caught her eye. Tom, do you have a key to this? She asked, heart racing. He nodded reluctantly and approached it, fumbling for a keyring hidden in his pocket. After a moment, the trunk creaked open, revealing paperwork, fishing licenses, and a stack of cash. I can't believe it, Tom breathed. What was Derek into? As they rifled through the documents, they discovered evidence connecting Derek to illegal fishing expeditions that pointed fingers toward a larger syndicate operating in the area. Before they could process the shocking information, a car engine roared in the distance, voices approaching fast. Someone's coming, Tom shouted, panic flashing across his face. Get down. Elena pulled Nadine behind a stack of crates, but the adrenaline coursing through her was rapidly accompanied by fear. With quick thinking, they both covered their mouths and held their breaths, watching as a group of shady figures stepped onto the dock. A familiar face stood out among them. It's him, Nadine whispered. That man, the one from the bar. Derek's supposed friends. They're after what he found out, Elena murmured, maintaining her composure as they listened in. I told you to clean it up. He was prying too much. One of the men barked, his voice low and threatening. He had too many eyes on him. We can't cover this up anymore. Another replied, their fear palpable. Once the cops find out. They couldn't hear much more as the group moved closer. But the urgency of the situation propelled Elena and Nadine into action. They had to escape without revealing their presence. Let's go now, Nadine hissed quietly, but Tom hesitated, fear glimmering in his eyes. "This is dangerous," he stammered. "I can't tell you more." "The truth could save lives," Nadine insisted firmly, but they all knew time was running out. They slipped off the boat, quickly retreating into the shadows as the voices became louder. Just as they reached the edge of the dock, one of the figures turned their gaze, squinting suspiciously in their direction. "Did you hear that? Go. Now," Nadine urged as they darted into the nearby alleyways, hearts pounding in unison. They scrambled through the narrow paths of the docks, adrenaline fueling their escape. When finally they reached the main street, they felt the tension begin to dissolve. The trio regrouped in a nearby cafe, sinking into their chairs, breaths ragged. "We have to go to the police," Elena announced, her hands shaking with adrenaline and fear. Nadine looked contemplative, biting her lip. "We do. If we lay it all out with the evidence, they'll have to take us seriously." They each took a moment, letting the weight of their experience settle in. "That woman at the bar," Tom muttered suddenly. "The one who was screaming for help. We could bring her too." Hannah agreed, her expression fierce. "The more evidence we have, the harder it will be for them to shut us down." They formulated a plan, deciding to meet at the police station after gathering more testimonies. A sense of unity and determination enveloped them as they forged ahead, the danger they faced solidifying their bond. Hours later, when the sun hung low in the sky, they sat in a dimly lit room at the precinct, recounting their journey to a detective. With each word, the tension among them charged the air. As they left the station, the detective promised to follow up, claiming to take their threat seriously. They had turned the wheels of justice, but the true fight would still come. "I don't know what's next," Nadine said quietly, her hand brushing against Elena's as they exited the building, warmth flooding Elena's heart. "It'll be okay. We did what we could." They stood outside together, glancing at the harbor as the evening tide rolled in. The weight between them shifted. Neither could deny the chemistry sparking in their midst. "This has been a whirlwind," Nadine began, her tone softer now. "But you were incredible, working together like that." Elena met her gaze, feeling the space between them buzz with a magnetic energy. "You were incredible too. I couldn't have done this without you." "Maybe we should celebrate a bit once this is all over," Nadine mused, stepping closer, her breath mixing with the salty ocean air. "I think we deserve it." Elena's heart swelled. "Definitely. Once we've brought those people down." As night enveloped Serene Cove, the promise of what lay ahead lingered between them, both the danger and the warmth of new beginnings. The bond they had forged was unbreakable, solidified in the chaos and urgency that had surrounded them. Though darkness still loomed, Elena felt hope, a vibrant tapestry woven into the fabric of Serene Cove, filled with the colors of revival and the connection she shared with Nadine. "Together," Elena echoed softly. "Always together." And with that quiet vow, they set off toward the pier, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them on stormy shores side by side.